I have run out of superlatives to say about Emma Hayes. She's a leader. She's a friend to me and my family. She's been a mentor over the years. She drives standards. So I think everything's there to be seen. I don't think there's any more anyone can say than what is out there for everyone to see for themselves.
Hello and welcome to We Are Chelsea, the official podcast of Chelsea Women, brought to you in association with Skoda, who are the official car partner of Chelsea Women and proud supporters of women's sport. I'm Kaz Demores, and today we've got a very different episode for you because I'll be chatting to one of the amazing coaches here to find out exactly what it takes to create a team like Chelsea. Stuart Searle has been the goalkeeping coach here since 2012, and he has been an integral part of their success during this trophy-laden period. Welcome to We Are Chelsea. Well, Stuart, hello, welcome to We Are Chelsea. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you very much.
Have you had training already?
Finished, done and dusted, another one done.
Another one done. For those that don't know, tell us exactly what your role is. I mean, we know you're a goalkeeping coach, but tell us exactly.
Oh goodness, I am the one that hides in the background. I'm one of the backroom staff, so I'm the goalkeeping coach. I've been Emma's goalkeeping coach for 11 years now. Obviously worked really closely with her over the years, the growth of the game. So I must have done something right to have lasted this long.
I love that. You have a very interesting story too. I'm not sure if this is true, but apparently you used to be a boot boy for Vinny Jones. Yes,
my upbringing was part of the crazy gang, the old Wimbledon crazy gang. Yes, I was a scholar there and I have a few stories.
What was that era like?
It wouldn't be allowed now, of course, it wouldn't be allowed now, modern day, but it was enlightening. My first experience of professional football. It was character building, and most of all, it was actually quite fun. I mean, it was hugely demanding, but all the stories that you hear that have been out there about some of the crazy gang players are probably mostly true. But what you don't hear, and I think it's somatical to all professionals across the board, is all the good things that they do. And what they did do to look after us was, as young kids, because I was 17, 18 years of age at the time. And they did all they could. You looked after them, they looked after you in different ways.
Now, talking about Chelsea, you've been here so long now. How has the club evolved since you started?
I'm kind of almost as old as this bit of furniture I'm sitting on, I think, here. Probably about 20 years, on and off. Had a few years away from here when I left to play professionally and live out my dream. But yeah, the evolution of the club, I think my first year here as part of the boys' academy was the first year they moved into this training ground. And how this training ground has changed from that time is unbelievable. I think obviously other people may have caught up now. Well, I'm probably not allowed to say that, but it's still a great place to come to work every day.
Now, a lot of people don't really get to know or see or hear from the backroom staff. So how many people are involved in Emma's backroom staff?
Firstly, there's a reason you don't hear from us, that's right. Because Emma's got a big voice and a big mouth and she likes to be at the forefront. No, there's probably about 25, 26 of us now, full-time staff.
Okay.
So it is a team behind the team. I know Emma references that and the players reference that quite a lot. So yeah, between technical, performance, medical, welfare, the academy, there's different departments that do different things all the time. So yeah.
So that's the structure, and I guess 25 people is a big team, and that's not even including the players. So how do you guys all adapt to gel and work together constructively?
Firstly, we, it's set out what the guidelines are and what we want to do at the very beginning of the season. What the objectives are. We've created a culture here, and has created that culture over the last 5 or 6 years that everyone buys into. We then obviously have the leads in each department which work together to form a multidisciplinary team, and then we put the players in the middle of that multidisciplinary team and work around the individual in the individual periodisation that we do for the players. And then outside of that is the team periodisation, which is what we do for the whole team. And, you know, when you get to see us on Sky and everything else, that's the training part of it. But, you know, the player is at the forefront of everything, the individual, because everyone's different. So everyone needs different things at different times. So there's a lot of detail that goes into it, and sometimes the players don't always like it, but I think deep down they know that we're doing it for them, and we're doing the right things to get the outcomes on the pitch that we've had. And I think results have spoke for themselves over the last 11 years.
Absolutely. Talk to me about how the relationship first came about between you and Emma and working together.
So my relationship with Emma started... Emma had been appointed and was a few months in and needed the goalkeeping coach, and one of her assistants, Rob Ubberg at the time, who was working with Paul Green, I was working with him in the international department. In the international department, we were doing work with partner clubs around America and around Asia, so I was travelling here, there and everywhere and roaming around the world, much to my wife's disgust. But Rob sort of put my name forward to Emma, and Emma dropped me a call, and I was like, "Who's this?" Like, "I'm Emma Hayes. I'm the women's first team manager. I want you to be my goalkeeping coach." I was like, "Not sure about this." Sort of left it for a little while, and then a couple of days later, "Have you had a thought about my proposition?" I was like, "I'll leave it a little bit longer." Because at the time, obviously, it was a big thing. You know, women's football wasn't really known there. It's certainly not within the club. You know, you knew it was here, but it was almost a tick box, you know, for the club to have a women's team, a women's academy. You know, no one really knew anything about the players other than the players that might have been playing for England at the time. I mean, that's even pre-Lioness time. So I actually knew Carly Telford before I came down here through a glove sponsor, and a guy called Glenn Johnson, who runs Pro GK Gloves. He sponsored Carly, and he sponsored me, and we kind of happened to bump into each other at an event. And I'd said to Carly about Emma offering me a job, and she's like, "Yeah, no, come, because it means I can get a proper goalkeeping coach for the first time." So I sort of built a relationship with Carly that's been forever since then. And I eventually got back to Emma and said, "Look, yeah, it's fine. I'll happily do it. And, you know, what's the expectation?" She's like, "Well, you know, we'll just pay you to come in and do a few sessions with Carly, tick her over." I wasn't even going to games at that point. It really was just part-time football, a couple of afternoons, because Carly was on a central contract with England, so she could train through the day. So the FA were funding that. So it gave me the opportunity to fit all my working hours between the international department, the boys' academy, and now the women's.
Gosh, so there were quite a few moving parts happening.
There was at the time. It was like putting a piece of jigsaw together. You know, it was, where can we pull money from one place to put it into another place, and it was a moving jigsaw constantly. And I think in those early days, it was how Paul and Emma could manipulate the budget that they were working under, which was a smidgen of what it is now, to fit what they needed in there.
Did you imagine back then that the game would have evolved the way that it has?
Personally, no, but the way the story Emma told me, I think she knew that it would blow up eventually at some point. I think it certainly escalated over a quicker period of time than what the story was told. But you know, for me, it's been great to be part of the journey.
What's Emma like on a day-to-day basis?
Depends in what context you take this one now. No, Emma's brilliant. Emma's fantastic. I mean, I have run out of superlatives to say about Emma Hayes. She's a leader. She's a friend to me and my family. She's been a mentor over the years. She drives standards. So I think everything's there to be seen. I don't think there's any more anyone can say than what is out there for everyone to see for themselves.
How would you describe her coaching style?
Emma's coaching style? She's demanding. Hell, she's demanding. I'm sure the players have told you that.
Yeah.
But do you know what? She's fair and she's inclusive. She just wants to win. She just wants to win, and she wants to get the players to join the journey just as much as she wants to get the staff to join the journey. She's great. She's really hands-on the pitch. I don't think I would be lying if I was to say sometimes she can unravel a mess in about 5 minutes. You know, she really thrives on not knowing what's going on.
Okay.
So for her, we've got two different leaders. We have Emma that can do something out of nothing, and you have Denise who's so process driven that she has to go over things 20 times before she delivers it.
Okay.
So what it does create is a really nice balance of quality, so that the players know where they stand and how messages get translated and received. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the inclusivity part of it. The players are always at the heart of everything that we do.
It's quite difficult, I'd imagine, being on your side of things and having to deal with so many different personalities, and especially for Emma, having to deal with so many personalities, because someone might want things done in one way and someone might want things done in a completely different way. There are some players that if you not threaten them, but if you say, you know, you've got to prove to me, otherwise you're going to be benched, they might really revel and they might really thrive off that. And others need maybe a bit more support and need words of encouragement. How do you deal with adapting to different personalities?
Well, firstly, it's made me a better husband. By getting to understand how women work a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, I could tell you a few stories of what Emma's introduced to us male staff in and around the environment. But it's the way that she leads. She wants everybody to understand what their role is and how she wants them to play their part within that. Of course, it's generational. To answer your question, I think it's generational. I think players that are the elder generation, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, the Millies and the Frans and the Sophies, you know, they're from a different generation to what the Neves and the Micahs and the Hannah Hamptons are, in how they learn, how much they've been coached in the past. Because I think, you know, the slightly more senior players will have had to go through that point in their career where they've had to really strive for everything they've got. To remember when Sophie was first time round, and I'd just started, she was living in, I think, down in Yeovil, down in the West Country, and she was travelling up and back on a sessionally basis, whereas now they're based 10-20 minutes from the training ground. So I think it comes back to that era of professionalism, and the senior players probably know what it's like to fight for that professionalism, and fight for their rights within that and their place in the hierarchy, whereas the younger players are coming from an era where coaching is the norm for them. So the way that they've learned and the way that they demand more and more from the staff and how they want it is obviously very different. But like I say, the puzzle is putting everything together, and it's the way that Emma and not only Emma but Denise and Paul, myself, we managed to put that puzzle together to get the results that we've deserved for our performances over the years.
We know as well that Emma is an elite coach. Everyone talks about, especially now that we know that she's leaving, everyone's talking about how legendary and iconic she's been here. But what do you think it is about her personality that has made her so legendary and such an elite coach?
Firstly, it's infectious. I mean, look, who can't like Emma Hayes? At the end of the day, she'll drop the F-bomb every now and again live on telly, won't she? Or she'll drop the mic at the end of the season, or you never really can tell what's going to come next from Emma, but there's always a rationale behind it. You know, she does everything for a reason. She gives messages to the press because that's what she wants to do. Whereas on another occasion, she will protect everybody in this environment and put the focus on her. I think what it is it's what being a top leader is, and that's what Emma is. She's a leader. She's not just a manager or a coach. She's a leader of people. And you jump on board with that journey. You jump on her boat, and she'll travel across the world with you. But it's also down to trust. And there's a lot of trust put into individuals, both staff and players, that people understand their roles and they know how to play their roles over the course of the season. Like the introduction of the finishers, and it's now become a common term, but we looked into that 4 or 5 years ago as to how can we help the players that aren't playing buy into what we need them to buy into. And that's the thing about Emma. She gets you to buy into the objective, that's set at the beginning of the season, and that's always to win every trophy, to win every game. And it's not always the greatest environment when we lose, let alone when we don't win a trophy. So I mean, it's been good that we've gone trophyless for, I think it's only maybe 1 or 2 seasons. So in the time we've been here, but it's that infectious personality that she has. She makes you want to do things for her.
Everyone that I've spoken to has talked about how competitive they are and how competitive Emma is, and how she really drives that competition even in training sessions. I think I spoke to Neve the other day, and she was like, she'd lost, so she was gutted, and Hannah had won on her team, so Hannah was like really happy. Can you give me an insight into what a training session with Emma is like?
Chaos, absolute chaos. No, I mean, there's a structure. There's a structure to what we work with, and Denise is at the forefront of all of that. Emma will deliver the attacking side of things. Denise will deliver the defensive side of things. I'll deliver the restarts and look after the goalkeepers on the side, so that there are clear boundaries as to who's doing what. The players will always know who's delivering at what moment, because it's set out, so they understand what the periodization looks like and what the session planning looks like. So everything's there for them to understand, for them to buy into those structures and that are there. But when you actually get out on the grass, I mean, who wouldn't want to be a professional playing for Chelsea Women at the moment? We have great facilities, we have fantastic people, and it just creates for a great mix as we get on a daily basis. Players are competitive. The standard of training is phenomenal. And we've got world class players. International breaks are great here because we don't have anyone here, so it gives us a bit of downtime as staff. But unless any of the injured players are in, but that's kind of tells you what the quality of squad we have. And just because we have that number of quality players, there's always going to be a competitive nature, an edge to what you do. And if you didn't have that edge, then I don't think we would be successful, because I think you need to have that edge, whether that's something that Emma creates because, she just wants to create that little bit of feistiness on the pitch. She wants to keep players on their toes. The minute that you get comfortable, you're dead.
I love that. The minute you get comfortable, you're dead.
Well, you are in this environment, that's for sure. You don't win. If you get comfortable, you don't win. That's for sure.
This podcast is brought to you by Skoda, the official car partner of Chelsea Women and proud supporters of women's sport. Whether you're playing five-a-side after work, cheering the kids on from the sidelines on a Saturday morning, or gathering with your mates to watch the big leagues at the weekend, Skoda's the perfect companion for your everyday adventures. Zip around town in the fully electric Enyaq, or give the squad a lift home in the all-new 7-seater Kodiaq. There's something in the range to suit teams of all shapes and sizes. Don't just take my word for it. Search the Skoda range today to jump in and see for yourself. I spoke to Hannah and I spoke to Zachira. They're completely different personalities. How do you nurture and coach girls who not only are different ages, different backgrounds, different cultures, but completely different personalities? And they both, by the way, spoke very highly of you and the background stuff. Well, it is, because I was talking to her and I said, what was one of the reasons that made you come to Chelsea? And she said, well, I know they've got phenomenal goalkeeping coaches and I knew I could up my game. And I spoke to them and they were like, we can make you a much better goalkeeper. And so I was like, okay, I'm coming. not many people would openly say that.
No, this is the moment I go a little bit red. No, I think for me, firstly, it's about being down to earth. I know what my place is in the hierarchy, and I know what my job is. I've been fortunate to be in this job for a long period of time, which gives me consistency. It gives me an opportunity to create. It's given me an opportunity to create a philosophy which we've been able to embed and grow year on year, depending on what Emma wants from a style of play perspective. But I think when it comes down to the players, it's very much down to trust and relationships. And I've learned over the years how to be a better coach, and how to deal with the different personalities that we have, because, you're right in saying they're all very different. They all need different things at different times, and it's just about picking the right style of coaching at the right moment with any one of those individuals. I've been very, very fortunate to work with some of the best goalkeepers that have ever played for in the last 12 years in women's football. We had Carly first, an international, and then Hedvig, Marie Hurahan, who had a great career, Becky Spencer, who's had a really long career. So, yeah, and that's before Zachira came in. And I think Zachira was the first goalkeeper that I recruited myself with Paul, and recommended forward to Paul and Emma. Obviously, you got Anne in there as well, and being one of the best goalkeepers, I think, in the world for a period of time, certainly for a time here. And obviously Hannah joining, Nikki Everard joining, and the growth of Emily Orman coming through the structure, and now Katie Cox. So I think the quality of goalkeepers I've been fortunate to work with has been there. It's just how you manipulate a day-to-day scenario to get what you need to get out of them. And I think the key for me is around the detail. The devil is always in the detail. And I think it's the fine details of how you can get from A to B to give them the best chance of being able to make the save. But also it's about them understanding what being a Chelsea goalkeeper looks like, because I strongly believe being a Chelsea goalkeeper, and I'm not just talking about the women's team, I'm across the club. I mean, I played here, so I was training with Peter Cech, Carlo Cudicini and Hilario, so I know how they worked when Christoph Lollichon was the goalkeeping coach. I've seen younger goalkeepers come through the system. Jamie Cumming I worked with at 9 years of age, and now obviously he's a pro and been out on loan. So understanding what it takes to be a Chelsea goalkeeper, I think, is part of the battle, because it's very, very different to what it might be at another club, because generally you have very little to do in a game, but the expectations are so high that when you have one thing to do, you best do it. Otherwise you're under pressure. And a lot of people would have questioned over the years why we've had so many top quality goalkeepers in a goalkeeping department. And the simple answer is people want to come here first and foremost. Who doesn't want to come to Chelsea Women? I've been fortunate enough to create a culture that has been talked about beyond the distances that I probably know and recognise. But at the end of the day, I try and stay level-headed with what I do and do my job, because if I don't do my job, then I wouldn't have been here for 11 years, and I certainly wouldn't be employed by Emma. You
touched on Zachira. What was it about her that made you want to go after her and sign her?
Zessie is a character. Zessie's definitely a character and a fantastic human being, one of the best human beings I've ever met, because she's such a growth mindset person first and foremost. And I think she's learned more and more about herself, partially because of the environment, not necessarily because of what I've done personally. It is our environment that creates the personality. But I remember first seeing Zachira when she was 19, and we actually played against her when she was playing for Rosengard in a pre-season game. We were playing at Carshalton Athletic, and I remember seeing this punky kid that had the attitude to burn. I think she was about 19 at the time. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to need to keep an eye on you, because you've got a little bit something about you. She had that personality that she has now. I think she's matured an awful lot from then, but she still has that personality deep down. Maybe it's the Baltic, the Balkan state in her that comes out every now and again. I mean, when she shouts, sometimes I even run and hide. So. But no, I think we see each other on a level playing field. I'd like to think that she would talk well of how I've communicated with her, because that's the one thing that I'll always ask every goalkeeper at the end and at the beginning of every season. So at the end, what can I do better for you for next year? And at the beginning, what do you want to achieve? And then once I get those answers, I can go away and mould something that is individual for each of them. But Zachira, I hope I've got a lifelong friend in Zachira. And I actually joked and said to her that when she becomes a coach, because I firmly believe she will become a coach, in her later life, that I'll come back and work for her.
Oh, wow. I mean, she's very talented. She's got an economics degree. She's playing for Chelsea women. And
amazing chef.
Is she?
Yeah. You've not seen her on Instagram and TikTok?
No, I've not seen her on TikTok.
Chef Zessie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wish I'd known
her Swedish
that
buns
earlier.
are very good.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay. You worked a lot with Carly, and you've mentioned her quite a bit on this podcast. She described you as the best women's goalkeeping coach in the world. In the world.
Yeah, I paid her to say that.
What is your secret formula? What do you think your best attributes are as a goalkeeping coach?
I think it's just that. It's creating relationships. It's creating relationships that are trusting. They can trust in me and I can trust in them. Of course, how we coach to get them to where they want to get to. Sometimes they don't always get to their end goal, but giving them the opportunity to express themselves first and foremost as they want to. Trying to put them into situations where they get the exposures of that give them memories for a lifetime. So, I mean, Carly's great. I mean, like I say, I sort of stumbled across Carly back in 2012 when she was not the greatest professional at that moment in time, I think. But she's openly said that she hadn't really had a lot of goalkeeping coaching. So, I mean, being the best in the world is very subjective, and it's down to opinion. I mean, what is that? I don't really know, because there's lots of good coaches out there. I think it's more about the relationships and the trust. That's at the forefront of everything. And if they trust you, then they will believe that you will be able to help them get to where they want to get to. And I've been hugely grateful for the people that I've worked with. And I'm so happy that they've been able to, some of them achieve their goals. So for instance, Hedvig, when she first comes, she said to me, I want to be the best in the world. And she was number 2 behind Hope Solo for a number of years, and number two. And finally we got her to that number 1 spot, which for me, that just gives me everything that I need. I don't need people to talk well about me. I just need people to talk well about my goalkeepers, and then it reflects on me.
That is brilliant, isn't it? That is a brilliant answer. They don't need to talk well about me. They need to talk well about my goalkeepers.
They'll be doing their job. It's not always about the other. So if a referee does their job in a game, you never talk about a referee, do you?
It's very true.
So if a referee doesn't do their job in a game, then we're all talking about referees.
Very, very true. What does a typical day look like for you in your role?
Well, firstly, it's a nice early start, 5 a.m. leave from home.
5 a.m.
Yeah, my days are pretty long, so I live in Milton Keynes. So I've done a journey from Milton Keynes to Cobham for 11 years. So It's becoming a little bit laborious now. No, it's got to be said. But so a 5 a.m. start, and I'll be in at Cobham for maybe about 7-ish, depending on traffic. It'll be a gym session in the morning. Got to try and wake myself up and keep myself fit, active, and then spot a breakfast, and then we'll sit down in the office and we'll plan a training session. For me, it's really difficult. I mean, I have a goalkeeping program that we try and sort of mould sessions around, but it's very much about what Emma and Denise want from the goalkeepers in the sessions, and then I'll try and put the pieces together around the theme that I might have from my programme, so that we can set the goalkeepers up to succeed in the training session. I think that's the most important thing for them, to feel good that they've got something from the training session. So so it'll be all around the planning, maybe a spot of breakfast second time round. Then it's a team meeting, presentation, strategy, and then out on the grass. And I will get anything between 20 to 40 minutes with the goalkeepers on a daily basis, just depending what Emma needs from a team perspective. The goalkeepers are firmly integrated into everything that the team does, and that's symmetrical to what you see on the telly now. You know, the goalkeepers have got to be able to play with their feet. Well, if I'm working in isolation with them, they're never going to get what they need to be the best levels that they can be when they go out on the pitch on a Sunday afternoon. So to be integrated with the team is crucial, but to try and find the details that the individual needs, from my point of view, I then lean a little bit on the multidisciplinary side of things and utilise the movement coaches a little bit to see how we can find the margins that we want to get to for the individual. So, like I say, it comes back to that individual periodisation I touched on earlier.
You touched on more and more use of feet. Do you think technically your part of your role has evolved as the game has also evolved, and specifically the role and the demands of a goalkeeper?
Yeah, sure. I mean, trends change over time. I think the fundamentals of goalkeeping is always going to be the same. From the very first game, I think goalkeepers are still stood in front of 3 white posts with a huge pitch in front of them and a leather ball being smashed at them. So that part of thing doesn't change. I think the expectations of what the game, what the team they're in demands of the goalkeepers is how they change. So that, for me as a goalkeeping coach, I need to be up to date with those trends, and they may be a different action, different type of an action that might become a little bit more European style, for example, or whether that is an in possession based situation on the pitch where they need to be better with their feet and almost become the 11th player. You know, when you do your coaching badges, you're always told it's 10 outfield players and 1 goalkeeper, but now it's not about that. It's 10 plus 1. So the inclusivity of the goalkeeper in what they're doing. It's never just the 10 outfield players and then the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
But back to when I was a wee lad, training, we were on a sandpit and you're in the corner of the field and getting muddy, and you're probably in the waterlogged area, so you were wailing around like little pigs in all sorts of things. I won't say that word. But yeah, it's definitely changed. It's definitely changed over time, and demands of the goalkeepers very, very different now. But I think it's a good thing because it evolves the game.
Yeah, I think sometimes people underestimate how much of a mental side there is to goalkeeping, because you need to be on alert so much, but the game could be completely at the other side of the pitch and you could be the hero or the demon almost in a second or a minute.
I mean that never changes. Like I say, the role of the goalkeeper hasn't really changed in relation to defending the goal. That's always been there. I think for all of the goalkeepers, that understanding of what it's like to be a Chelsea goalkeeper, and to actually feel the different scenarios, because yes, you can be like Anne was last year against Lyon, you can be the hero, but on other occasions, you've been the villain. So you have to be thick-skinned first and foremost. You have to be able to cope with the rough stuff as well as the smooth stuff. But from a psychological and a mental point, it's far more mentally tiring a game of football than what it is physically for the goalkeepers. Outfield players are running 10 to 13 kilometres in a game. Goalkeepers are moving 3 to 5 kilometres in a game. But you have to be engaged. You've got to be watching what's going on. You've got to constantly, you've got to constantly stay in contact with your team, using your voice, your positioning, all those sorts of things. So, again, it comes back to creating the right environment. Lots of people would say a match day +1 for us, or I've got to have a day off. Actually, if they've not really done a lot in the game, no, they can train and then they have match day +2 off. But it's what we do in that training session that stimulates them, stimulates their brain.
Yeah.
The neural pathways that they need to develop, and that sense of emotional security that they need to bring to the team is huge.
We know that Emma is leaving at the end of the season. How does it work in football? Do all of her backroom staff leave with her? Do some people stay? I know, unfortunately, you are also going. What does the future hold? How does it normally work?
How does it normally work? I mean, Emma's chosen to take a team with her. Again, it comes back to what I said about Emma earlier. It's she's taken her tried and trusted with her. So she's going into a new environment, and the role of a manager is a role of a manager. It doesn't matter at what level it is, whether it's international or club, whether it's male or female. You're seeing it more and more across the men's game. A manager will go in with a team of people primarily because they're going into a brutal environment that they know they've got to get results very, very quickly in. And they need their tried and trusted people around them. You don't want to be trying to build relationships with people whilst you're trying to win titles and you've only got 5 minutes to spend. We know how Emma works. We've worked with her for a long period of time. The 6 of us that are going, and we know what her expectations are. I think the bigger challenge for us is you're going into a completely different environment across the pond, with very different expectations. And of course, it's international football, not club football. But I think from a management perspective, you'll see more and more managers won't just be coming in on their own or with one assistant. They'll be coming in with a team of staff because the expectations put on them now are so high. And, Emma being here for 11 years or 12 years, me being here for 11 years, is not normal. It's not normal in football. You see people do it for, I don't know what the lifespan of a Premier League manager is now. It's less than 18 months.
I was going to say, not long.
No. So, I think that will also grow into the women's game. I think we're seeing that because of the expectations that are put upon them, the money that's starting to be spent, the exposures that the game is created. The Lionesses are created by winning the Euros and coming runners up in the World Cup. I think that the outside expectation of the fans will not only grow the game, but will bring different demands upon managers, coaches, players in time to come.
So my absolute last question, how do you look back at your time here at the club?
Well, I'm a lifelong Chelsea fan, so I'm a fan at heart, and I will always be a fan at heart. And I reference Emma when she always says to me, stop thinking with your heart and start thinking with your brain when it comes to coaching. I mean, I've been on a journey, a wonderful journey, a journey that's taken me to places that I never dreamt of going to. As a young kid, I always dreamt about stepping out at Wembley, and I've had the opportunity to do that on numerous occasions, maybe 15, 16 times now. So it really has become like a second home. But the feeling of winning and being part of a winning culture, a winning environment, being able to pick trophies up at the end of every year is hugely satisfying. But there's always a but. But it only lasts for 5 minutes until you want the next hit of the next drug that comes along.
It has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, for being so open and honest. And it's sad that you're going to be leaving, but I wish you and Emma and her whole team the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to We Are Chelsea, the official podcast of Chelsea Women, brought to you in association with Skoda, who are the official car partner of Chelsea Women and proud supporters of women's sport. Remember to subscribe to the feed, give us a review, and send in your questions to wearechelsea@chelseafc.com. See you next time.